We've come to that time. It's been a long 2 days with a lot of thought-provoking and interesting comments. I'm not going to keep you very long. I want to do two sets of things. The first is a very important set of thank yous and acknowledgements, and the second is something more to sort of wrap this day up. The first thank you and acknowledgement is to the institutions which have made this event and our whole project possible, which are, as Nikolai said in his opening, not only funders but have been partners, which is FES, and I see Martin's still here. I don't know if Renata's still here, and Martin's replacement, which we look forward to working with you. Oxfam, Ayabonga and Imtandaso, in particular there, and Elola Norway, who also gave money towards the symposium. The second is the team of people. Our research team, which is Ruth, Elena, it is Brian and Bandile, it is Lotta and Mapefo, and Yana and Ilan. I hope I've got everyone. And then to those who we commissioned on top of that, which is Arden and Asgar. We've also benefited from the oversight of a number of leading academics and experts, who the names of which are on the second page of the program, from the US, in Germany, in Brazil, and the UK. Whilst we're on internationals, to thank all of our international guests, some of whom accepted the invitation months ago, and some of whom we managed to organize to attend a week ago. And I really think that we've benefited exceptionally, but particularly from a range of insights, whether it is a governmental insight, academic insight, union insights, and there's no doubt in my mind that we've managed to include here real leaders in this field, and I feel, at least for myself, that it's been immensely enriching. To the institutional support in WITS, the most important one of which is Nikolai, who's the head of CSID, who has supported this, been involved, and displayed with my important leadership, like working with myself, and a big thank you. The chairs of the sessions, I think I've mentioned, and in addition to the oversight team, various advisors who have commented on individual aspects of the work, three of which are here, which is Neil, Shane, and Debbie. I don't know if there's others here who have been part of. Uma has commented on some of our work. So to all of those who have offered such insights. To other academics who have also joined, in particular at DPRU, we thrilled that the three of you came, both to present and to engage. This is perhaps a slightly this is not really a thank you, but an acknowledgement, I think, because I don't think it's going to necessarily be done in many forums. But I've now sat in many forums where I've heard Neil present many of the similar issues, and never within a time limit that's been allocated. But for those people who think a national minimum wage is a good thing in South Africa, Neil's really been the person who the last 4 years and before has been driving that. And I think that's just, it's not a formal comment necessarily, a thank you from our research project, but it's an acknowledgement that for all of those who think that this is a progressive policy, it is worth noting some of the key people who have been pushing that. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Right, so I think, Ruth, Nick, if people out, just like wink at me, okay? The issue of what we've been doing here, okay, now I think it's important that we are clear, this is an academic space. This is a bunch of academics who decided after, as is noted, engagement between us and Labour, that we were going to undertake academic research, and we were going to set up an oversight team and employ people and try and present. And there was there was a very clear explanation made that this was not only academic research to stay within academia, but academic research which we hoped would engage the rest of the public. But because of that, it's inherently limited. We've heard some very interesting contributions of the floor, and I think it's important to also thank everyone who has attended. But what many of those contributions on the floor have highlighted to me is the deficiency of spaces within which this issue is being raised, which includes, unfortunately, at least from an outsider's view, in the trade union movement. But it's clearly there's a deficiency not only there, but within civil society groups who I know that have got plans to try and engage in the next few months. It's been a deficiency with regards to a public dialogue between social partners, and I've got no idea what goes on in the hallowed halls of the Chamber of Mines or the various other employer bodies, but and I think that's why some of the frustrations from the audience have been raised, because this is a very limited space, trying to do a very limited activity, and one which I feel we've done fairly satisfactory. But really it's about taking this issue which impacts on hundreds of thousands, millions of people's lives, and creating other spaces which are not led by the intellectuals, right? Which are not led by a small number of people who, let's not kid, I'm never going to be paid the minimum wage. I will have a PhD, please God, in a year's time, and and so it's very, very clear that it's not up to the people like me to be to be leading engagements on this. So I agree with what was expressed earlier very clearly about which voices are being heard. And I mean, our research project has tried to bridge that in a limited way. We've done work with the WITS outsourcing, the fees must fall, the student movement. We've attempted to offer resources to other organizations. But I absolutely agree that we must be honest about the limited nature. The last thing I'll say is that, whether I don't know what the minimum wage will be set at, and I am absolutely sure from the previous work which I have done and the people's lives that I've heard from, as well as the academic work, that that a wage of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 4,500 is not necessarily a wage which is going to mean even 5,000, 5,500, a wage which will mean that people are going to live the kind of lives which we all should be living, a life of dignity, a life which involves not only access to food and to shelter, but to good education, to healthcare, to a holiday, to all of those things. But for me, that doesn't mean that a national minimum wage and the opportunity to be a part of a process which increases wages is not important, even if that wage ends up being at 4.5 and not 12.5, because 50% of full-time workers, 50% earn at 3,640 Rand or under. And if a minimum wage is set anywhere near that, that means that the wages of 50% or more will be improved. So it's a careful balancing act, I think, for those of us, and I'm very clear about this in the press and here, that I believe that a national minimum wage is a good thing, right? And the evidence, I think, that we've heard over these last 2 days indicates that. But a national minimum wage is also a limited thing. But it's a limited thing which still has value for what it is, which is a wage floor. And so those people here who have raised concerns of those things, I think that an ongoing fight to achieve a decent wage, to achieve higher wages, those are admirable goals and ones which we should, as progressives in society, advocate for. But I think that a national minimum wage has a very specific but also very important role. And therefore, on that note, I'd like to thank all of those who have taken time to come and deliberate from far away and from near on what I think can be a really revolutionary instrument, as well as was shown earlier, one instrument out of others. So for the very thoughtful engagement, thank you very much.